I just want to say, gracious good day, and welcome to the Jann Arden podcast. I am here, as always, week after week after week with Caitlin Green, Sarah Burke. They are in their Toronto homes. I am in my Springbank, Alberta home, and so glad to be here. I look forward to this every week, and I also look forward to what the girls have got going on that's good, because we're going to dive into some really shitty stuff once again, because it just won't. We're going to hear the good, and then we're going to talk about the U.S. men's hockey team, because I'm so fucking raging about it. Anyway, Caitlin, tell us something good before we launch people off into anger world.
Okay, I'll start us off by saying that we had a wonderful weekend trip to the nation's capital. We went to Ottawa to see some really good friends of ours who have kids who are similarly aged to Will. So it's kids playing, it's parents having some wine. We went out to some really great restaurants, and we took the train. And we haven't taken the train. We always drive. And the last few drives we've had have been particularly torturous. And also with just winter weather, everything like that. We thought, let's take the train. Will loves the train. He was so excited. And we got on board. And I'll just say it was the most relaxing, civilized experience, especially if you're traveling with a kid. You don't have to worry about getting to an airport. You arrive, you walk right onto your train, load your own luggage. We decided to splurge, and we did via one. So it's like a little bit more comfortable, and it wasn't that much more expensive. And I think we got a pretty good price overall on the seats. And it was one of the new cars. The bathrooms are nice, and like Will can get up and walk around. He can talk to people, which he likes to do. You get a hot meal. Like, it was really, really nice, and it made the travel days feel a lot more relaxing.
I love that.
Yeah, I think just if you have a city that you want to go to, it's close enough that you can take the train. I really think if you're traveling with a kid, it's a nice thing to do for them.
It's kind of an Ontario thing. We don't have that here. We have a train that goes to Banff.
Okay.
You cannot take a train. There's no train tracks for commercial trains that go to Edmonton, which I think they've talked about for about 400 years.
Yeah.
Since Henry VIII was in power, they've talked about that. But yeah, we don't have trains that take you up to Peace River. I think you can still get, I want to say, a Red Arrow.
I thought there's a train
bus
that goes across the country. No?
It goes across the country, but there's nothing really that you can go intercity in Alberta. And I don't think there is in British Columbia as well. I think this is an Ontario thing. I think your population supports that kind of travel. You guys might remember this from a long time ago. I went on Via Rail from Toronto to Ottawa, but I had my little dog Mitty.
Yeah.
And halfway in Oshawa, the ticket guy came up and he goes, "What's in the bag?" And I said, "My dog." And they stopped the train, and I had to get out in Oshawa. It made the national news. People were raging that I was trying to kill people that had dog allergies. My dog was sound asleep in a bag.
Oh my gosh.
And I had it sitting there. I didn't know.
And she was hypo.
Train.
She was hypo. People need to calm down.
It was so ridiculous. Anyway, thank God I had the wherewithal, and I had a road manager, Chris, who called me a limo to pick me up in Oshawa. I had to wait there 2 hours for the
in
car.
Ontario's armpit.
Don't say that. I already had to apologize to Oshawa because I said I was dropped in the middle of nowhere. Let's not revisit this. Oshawa,
Okay,
I love you. I think you're a fantastic town. You are progressive, and it's filled with great people and cafes. And I mean, I've been there, and I didn't know where I was.
Oshawa Generals.
Yeah, Oshawa Generals. So anyway, Sarah, what's going on good in your world?
I'm happy to be on the other side of a terrible cold. That's my good news right now. I've been sick. I picked up something from Dan's kids last week.
It's horrible.
It's not been fun. I've coughed up a lot of things, and this is like following the family day outing where I loved the outing, but I was so tired. I don't think it was the parenting that made me so tired. It was the cold.
Yeah,
that was brewing. Yeah, so.
I love that our worlds are so different now.
I know.
We're taking the kids skating. I've got this. I'm the one that gave the kids the cold from hell when I visited them.
Oh, yeah.
And Thordis is like, that's families. We just trade off. She goes, don't feel bad about it. You know, you can't avoid it. So we're all in the same boat for that. Things are going great with Dan, and that's...
Well, his mom had a hospital visit last week, so we're sending her our love. She's recovering from like a lung thing right now. But while we were there, I spent some time with like one of his childhood best friends. It was really nice to stay, at their place and help, his dad out with a couple things. We did some snowboarding because what else do you do when you're in Huntsville? So all my very tiny muscles that I don't know how to use normally are like atrophied today. Yeah, it's going good.
Well, I
though.
love it. Well, that's good. I mean, my good news is my friend Leah is here visiting. She's doing some CBC pitches. Leah was one of the writers and partners on the Jan show. We were partners on that. And so we're having a visit and doing fires in the morning and coffee and just talking about life. And that's always fantastic. I love it when she's here. Later today, we're going to go do Value Village.
Yes.
She is a professional thrifter, and we're going to talk
Really?
about that on the show sometime. Yes.
Okay.
She can turn some things around. She finds things that are very valuable. And I don't know how she spots it, but she can go through in 10 minutes and say to me, nothing in here that
She
we
has
need
to
to worry
come
about.
to the Bachelorette. She has to.
Okay, well, there you go.
Agree.
Yeah, we're still going to do that. I'm going to give you some dates when I'm going to be there
Yeah,
in
we're working on
Toronto.
it.
And we've got lots of time.
I have so many thoughts.
Yeah, so Leah's here. I think my friend Bev is going to come with us this afternoon. That's fun.
Did you guys watch the hockey game? The gold medal games on the weekend?
Yeah, I bit my nails down to my first knuckle. So I just
I
had
had to tap
blood
out.
spurting all over the living room.
What about like Will? Was Will like up for watching this kind of stuff now
Will
too?
doesn't care. Will's like
Okay.
he passively wants stuff on, but if it's like if a TV is on and it's not playing like Paw Patrol, he's just annoyed.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So but my husband and our friends watched it. We watched it in Ottawa in the morning before we left.
Yeah.
And it was really something.
Yeah. And Jan, did you wake up at like, it would have been what, 6 a.m. you had to wake up for the game?
I think it was on here because we are 2 hours. You guys are later than us, so I think I was up around 6:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
To watch,
Okay.
but I enjoyed it, and the athleticism was great, and it's amazing. And we will move on to this hockey game, the gold medal match between Canada and the United States, and let's keep in mind these are young men. Okay, they're mostly between 20 and I'm going to say 30. I'm going to safely throw that out there.
40 if you want to include Sidney Crosby, who's kind of a big deal, but anyway.
Yeah, and who got injured, which was
unfortunate.
heartbreaking. But anyway, the Americans won, as you know, in a nail-biting game filled with athleticism. It was wonderful hockey on both sides. The women were absolutely effing amazing. Both teams played with such poise, professionalism, camaraderie. It was just great to see them at the end hugging each other and just being sportsmanlike, which is what the Olympics should be about.
Yeah.
So anyway, everything was going well. I think the Americans were gloating. We kind of have a huge rivalry going on right now.
An ongoing gloat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happened, girls? Please take it from me because I will just spew hatred. Trump calls them.
I'm going to play the audio right here of what happened in the dressing room.
I must tell you, we're going to have to bring the women's team. You do know that.
Absolutely.
I do believe I probably would be impeached, okay?
I guess it's like sort of prompted by Kash Patel.
Inexplicably, Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, who is woefully unqualified for this job and objectively terrible at it, so there you go, he decides that what he's going to do with taxpayer money is fly his ass on a private jet over to the locker room to chug beer with Team America. Because, my goodness gracious, he's not busy enough. Like, oh, don't worry. Don't worry about the
Nothing
remaining
going on right
3
now.
million pages of Epstein documents. Don't worry about all the redaction screw-ups you have. Don't worry about the litany of other things facing the U.S. on a national security basis. You should definitely be in Milan chugging beer in the locker room with your hockey team. What an idiot. What an
think
up
the
and
way
down
he was
sick idiot.
There's lots of people online, women, really great political,
Voices.
that do amazing op-ed pieces. Yeah. Women and men. So let's go there right now. There's so many men that are disgusted with this. But they're saying that's why women choose bears. If they were faced with being in a forest alone with a man or a bear, we choose the bear. But, Kash Patel pounding on his chest and spraying beer all over the front of him, acting like he was on fucking MDMA or something. Or
Acting like he was
I don't
on
know,
the team.
acid.
Acting like he had anything to do with this win. Like, in addition to being under the influence of substances, which when you watch him in some depositions, he might be. Like, so I just want to say that the vibe was bizarre, because to see the director of the FBI acting like he was the coach of the team is just so weird. It's just such odd behavior.
CBC had interesting clips of the Canadian team high-fiving fans as they went into their dressing room on period breaks. They would see the Americans go by, looking down, not doing anything, not looking at the fans, not interacting, just being whatever they are. But when Trump phoned to congratulate the male winners, the gold medal winners, there's clips of it everywhere, as you have heard. And a lot of laughter when he talked about inviting the women's team. You know, we're going to have to invite the women's team too.
Or I'm going to get impeached.
This giant guffaw of that broligarchy, bullshit, patriarchal, disgusting treatment of women. And that gender inequality that is so prevalent, you know, in every aspect of our day-to-day lives, whether it's sports or business or fucking being in a grocery store or being on a bus being oogled by some fucking turd. But it was so disappointing to see these young men play into that.
Like, you expect it from Trump, you expect it from Kash Patel almost, but like these other guys had an opportunity to do something. And, you know, hopefully by the time this podcast episode comes out, there's a massive apology or in some sort of proper statement. But, you know, look at Jack and Quinn Hughes. Their mother is an Olympic athlete.
And was a coach.
Like, are you laughing at your fucking mom?
I hope she is not condoning their behavior. I hope there's been some words. But like I said, these are young men. And we all know, and Caitlin, we've talked about this before. You made a really good point, you know, when the election first happened, of why young men that felt marginalized cast their vote for a guy who was a known felon, who had, you know, who had been bankrupt a million times. And I mean, I'm sure you see shades of that in this behavior still.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're probably MAGA themselves. Like, that was the part where it's like, I almost don't want you. Like, I mean, they can give the apology. It's PR infused anyways. But what you saw was a moment of authenticity where many of them are likely in for this behavior, could vote for it, could be a very, like, his voting base was well reflected in that clip. And so I think that I found that this was just, it felt like the clip all of a sudden was in black and white to me. Like, I just was like, what year is this? What year is this that we have a bunch of like spineless, bootlicking professional athletes who could have done anything but what they did, acting like your mom isn't an Olympic athlete, acting like you don't have a whole team of champions in their own right coming right alongside you on the podium, acting like the majority of the gold medals weren't won for the U.S. by women. And so I just thought, this is such a self-congratulatory circle jerk of bullshit. That I was like, it's just losers congratulating losers. And I don't care if you won the gold medal. You're not acting like winners. You're acting like losers. And you're classless. And this is such a low point for you to take your high point of the win and then
erase it.
And then bring it down to here. And I also want to say, on a petty note, you're not as good looking as our team. Sorry. Like, I just was like, I looked around that locker room and I said,
They look like goofy children, those
face
American
cards
boys.
Declined all the way around. You're not competing with Tom Wilson. You're not competing with Sidney Crosby. So I don't know. I'm like, you know what? And your leader, who's like laughing at your other winning team about, oh, I guess I'll have to invite them to the White House or I'm going to get impeached. Look him up in the Epstein files. Look up who you're laughing with. Like,
not
look
to
up who that
mention,
is.
with the women's team, they matched your medals in a third of the time. Okay? Like, the women's team has medaled in every event since women's hockey was a thing in the Olympic Games. And how classy the women's team dealt with it, we should also mention. Just whether or not that invitation to the White House was real or not, like, just putting a public statement out there right away being like, yeah, we're because of other engagements, we're not going to be able to make it.
So a little update on that. Flavor Flav, if we can harken back to the 80s. So he has offered to, like, let's throw these women a party. And there's so many people stepping up. There's all kinds of airlines. I wish I could name them off right now. Alaska in particular has stood up and said, we will fly them there. We will cover their flights. There's a hotel chain in Las Vegas that's saying we'll cover all their hotels, food. We will throw in a spa treatment for them. And I think it's going to happen. Flava Flav is sort of the underdog of this story. I haven't really thought about him for a long time, but he's just like, no, let's show these women a great time. So
there's a lot of
Snoop.
I was going to say, he's like the opposite of Snoop Dogg now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of, there's good things that come out of bad things, but we are having the opportunity in real time to see the behavior of these people. And I'll tell you what, heated rivalry just resurrected a hockey culture that was really in trouble. Even in Canada here, we had 5 or 6 young men in a hotel room. They were all let go. Every one of them was exonerated. They, once again, did not believe the testimony of the witness and felt she was unreliable. And here's 5 men in a room that had sex with a woman, and their whole defense was like, she said that we could. And we have it on tape. We asked her, are we allowed to do this to you? 5 men, 6 men in a room. Anyway, they were talking about new fans that were coming to the NHL that they were very excited about. That has been demolished. All the things that I'm seeing online now with people going, I ain't fucking watching hockey. I would rather watch
viewership
reruns
down
of Little
38%.
House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
So almost 40% of viewership down. The hockey culture is a very in trouble culture. With young men and their behavior. This was a nail in the coffin, I think, of where sport should be headed. And we've spent, 11 minutes talking about this. And I just said to the girls, let's spend 5. But anyway.
But it's clearly ticked me off to no end.
It's ticked all of us off. This is the biggest conversation in Canada this week, like hard stop.
And I think, you just see how Mark Carney handles this, the congratulations he's passed along to all of our teams, the way that he celebrates all of our winners in any capacity, all of our competitors. I just am like, this is gross now, how tacky and trashy this whole brand is for the U.S. at this moment. And it's remarkably embarrassing. And when you saw them, they got off their plane and they landed back in the U.S. There's 5 people waiting for them to go and I just felt like this wouldn't, in Canada, we would have celebrated them because we feel like we have something really worth celebrating. So I just thought for all of the locker room laughs and the bootlicking and all that stuff that we saw happen, what was it for? What was it for you to sidle up to? How does this impact your brand? You did it for nothing. You did it for no one. Your fans don't even care. Hockey is not as big of a deal in the U.S. as it is here in Canada in many parts. And so I just am like, you know what? I don't care. And the gloating, that's the other part. The gloating on social over beating us. Trump posting of
the Justin Trudeau tweet from oh, you can't take our game. He brings it back up and retweets it like a friggin' child.
I'm like, Justin Trudeau's not even the leader of our country. He's busy living his best life with Katy Perry. And also Trump is posting himself an AI slop version of himself fighting a Canadian hockey player, fist fighting. And I just thought, your diaper would be so full if you were up against one of our NHL players.
The man can't walk a straight line, Caitlin.
What are we doing? I just was like, this is just so laughable.
Let's take a deep breath.
Okay, deep breath.
Okay, and we're going to move on.
Back to me imagining myself on the train with Will to Ottawa.
Well, first of all, I'm just going to do a little tease, and then we're going to move on and find out what's going on in the scroll. But our guest later in the show today is one of the coolest fucking rocker guys in the country. And seriously, take a look at the Sheepdogs. They are just awesome. They're so stylized and their music is so authentic, and you cannot help but move your body and listen to this and bob your head.
They got a new album coming out.
Yes, they have a new
Friday.
album coming out. So we were so happy about Ryan Gullen. He's the bassist for the Sheepdogs, which is the best instrument as far as I'm concerned. And new album coming out, as Sarah said. But it's just filled with great songs, tight musicianship, and of course they're going to have a whole lot of touring in their future. So we're glad that he had some time to take with us. But he has a really interesting story to tell. I'm not even going to tell you what that is. It does involve me. And no, I did not have relations with the Sheepdogs. But anyway,
I wish you left it up to the listener to...
Or maybe I did. Listen, Caitlin, we're going to go over to you and we're going to cruise it around on the scroll.
Because we've already talked about hockey, I won't talk about it, but I will say that it is the biggest thing still that's going around on the internet. So I want to acknowledge that I'm aware of this, but I'm making an editorial decision not to revisit because we've already done so. I do want to talk a little bit about Eric Dane, the passing of Eric Dane. Now, this is kind of old, I don't want to say old news, but it's not completely fresh. But I'm still seeing a lot of conversations around his passing. And I wanted to talk to you guys specifically about this because of his participation in the Netflix series Famous Last Words. And I think because he did this, there are so many viral clips happening right now. And so to sort of set the stage here, of course, you might know Eric Dane. He was McSteamy on Grey's Anatomy. He was in Euphoria. He passed away only at the age of 53, and he had a struggle with ALS, might know it as Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a crushing illness, and he seemed to really face it head on with bravery, with a lot of strength, with a really positive attitude. And I think that he captured a lot of the essence of his character in this Netflix Famous Last Words. So if you haven't seen this already, it is the US take on a Danish show that does the same thing, where they have public figures come in and record messages, sort of like a living obituary.
Oh my God, I'm getting chills.
I know. And in the event of their passing, this is released right after they pass away. And it is a massive hit in Denmark. People wait with bated breath to see if one of their favorite public figures has recorded one of these if they pass away. And I think it's more common, I think, for, older, I guess, public figures. Jane Goodall did one with the new Netflix series here in North America. And so now, obviously, Eric Dane, very aware of his own impending mortality, decided that he would record one. And he directed it specifically at his daughters. And he wanted to give them pieces of advice, but pieces of advice that I think are so fabulous for anyone to have. And they were really moving and compelling. And because this is such a touching, emotional, kind of morbid piece of content, I don't know that the show is necessarily for everyone, but I have to say, I love it. And I think it's because we seem like as a society to avoid the topic of death. And I certainly appreciate why, but I think it leaves people really underprepared when they are touched by it in their own life. And so I kind of like that this show is introducing that to people in a new way. And man, I'll tell you, Eric Dane's words were not a bummer. Like, even though this is a guy who's sick and he's in a wheelchair and his voice is compromised, it was, like, dare I say, uplifting, because he was telling so many stories of resilience and how to fight through things. And, like, I just love him. And I loved the segment. So I can't recommend it more enough. There's endless videos and audio going around on social if you want to check it out.
What a great idea for a show. I wish it was a podcast I thought of.
Well, you know who's producing it? It's Brad Falchuk. He is the producer, and he's married to Gwyneth Paltrow, and he is widely regarded in Hollywood as being like one of the nicest people in Hollywood. One of these like really soulful, touching guys. And
maybe he's rubbing off on Gwyneth.
Gwyneth has an interesting branding dilemma, because I actually think she is a really sweet, amazing person, but I think she kind of got tied up in a lot of the, like, I don't know, the jade egg vaginal steaming of it all for Goop, that I think people kind of like questioned her credibility.
Were there candles that smelled like her vagina? Like, wasn't that a thing too?
Yeah. I think, but I do think she's actually, like, I've listened to her in so many podcasts over the years, and I think she's really warm and so intelligent and accomplished. So anyways, this is her husband, and he's behind it. And I think he has a great touch as a producer with these emotional topics. So if you're interested, check it out. Jane Goodall was also excellent.
Jane was feisty.
She was feisty.
She was very adamant that this could not be released till her death, but she finally goes after right-wing bullshit, and she calls it like it is. Like, Jane always came across as very, politically correct for the most part, and just not... She just wanted to concentrate on animals. She didn't want to ever make it about her or her political opinions. But, man, she swings the bat pretty darn good.
I was thinking that there should be a version of this, because this is obviously, it's Netflix. So there could be a Canadian public figure who winds up on it. But I would love to see a very Canadian, unintentionally Canadian version of this for us.
Let's start this segment on our show. Great.
Because I'm like, I want this with Margaret Atwood. I want this with, Jan. I'm not saying you're close to the end of your life, but I'm saying
I want you. Exactly.
Yeah. Like I want the Canadian best to be there. And that way we have these types of things in the event that they're interested in participating when, say, someone like, unfortunately, Catherine O'Hara passes. So yeah, immediately I thought of her and I thought of this and I was like, this is a very cool idea. So living obituaries definitely making their rounds on everyone's scrolls right now as a result of this. Wuthering Heights. Have you guys seen anything about Wuthering Heights? Have you?
I want to see it.
I do want to see it. I read the book. I mean, the book is not really a romance. It's a very, very dark story, but it has been, I think, shot something like 15 or 16 times in Hollywood. There's different versions of this. As early as, the late 90s going into the 2000s, there has been versions of Wuthering Heights. But this one is a little different because Barbie has been cast, and there's been a lot of controversy about Margot Robbie playing this role and having an English accent. And is she too beautiful for the role? It's so funny because the way that Ms. Bronte describes the character in the actual book is nothing. It's not Margot Robbie. It is a rugged, woman who's, part of the marshes and the wind and the trees. And I don't know. Hollywood tends to take beautiful, beautiful people, and they just are so determined to do that and not portray people as they really are. So it's kind of disappointing. Any trailer that I've seen, I will watch it, but I'm going to watch it when it's on a rental for $6.99.
I would say that actually is like a great way to go about it. And I think it's because, so it's an endlessly trending story right now because it has arguably the two hottest people maybe in the world starring in it.
That's what I mean. For
like
me.
Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, but also because it's like this composite of everything that's trending all the time. The soundtrack is by Charlie XCX. It's directed by Emerald Fennell, who did Promising Young Woman and then Saltburn. So it's very like catchy and it's very, very stylized. And it's supposed to be like dark and sexy. But you're right, Jan. It's constantly portrayed as a romance, and it's really more of a revenge movie. Like it's honestly much more about anger and revenge than it is about, like true love. So anyways, but I wanted to point out that the reason why a lot of people are discussing it also is because allegedly, and I'm putting in a big allegedly here, Warner Brothers Studio paid more than 2,000 influencers to post nice things about the movie. And so there's a larger conversation right now about organic and inorganic marketing and how much you can trust when you see your favorite influencer posting about something online, whether it's skin cream or a face brush or a haircut or a coat or whatever it is, or a movie or a TV show. You really do have to call into question if they're being paid to like this. Now, a lot of influencers will very clearly label something, right? So maybe the studio invites them to come to an influencer screening and then pays them to post positive reviews. All you would have to do is like put a hashtag so that everyone can know it's SpawnCon, sponsored content. And then I think you kind of do away with any sort of, potential negative fallout for the studio, let's say. But no one really clearly labeled these. And so they're wondering, hey, you invite them to come see the movie, you make them say that they like it, and now it's doing really well at the box office because it's this cool kind of everyone wants to be in on the conversation around it type of movie. And I think it has raised a lot of eyebrows about like what is actually going to count as a legit movie review in 2026, and how are you supposed to be gauging it? Everyone's talking about, when you see people saying, oh, everyone's talking about this, it's like, why are they talking about it? Are they being paid to talk about it? Like, what's the story here? So I haven't seen it yet, but Jan, I would recommend, watch it from your sofa. That's my...
The American hockey team could use some influencers telling them that the game is good.
Hey, I was going to say, though, they might actually hire them. You can hire these bot farms. If you're a public figure and you want to sway public opinion, these big agencies in Hollywood will pay top dollar to create inorganic content and in support of whoever's paying the bill. So that's not a bad idea, Sarah.
That was the scroll for this week, and I loved every minute of it.
That's the scroll.
God, that was just a little bit too hockey for me, Sarah.
I'm sorry.
It was a little. I just feel like that was like that somebody just scored with that little ditty. Listen, our guest coming up is none other than lovely Ryan Gullen, and we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and hear from him and hear his great story about me. And all I want to say is that I like the guy even more and more because he was nice to me, and it's cool. I feel cooler having had a chance to interview someone so cool. And he's doing some great JUNO little ads that I've seen him on, and I'm like, I know that guy. He's a friend of Sarah's. So stick around, come back after the short break, and you're going to really like this conversation with Sheepdogs' Ryan Gullen. We've got one of the coolest low-key rockers this country has produced, other than, of course, myself. Ryan Gullen is the bassist for the Sheepdogs, that retro riff-heavy, harmony-soaked band that has never strayed from their classic rock roots from Saskatoon, no less. Saskatoon bars to Rolling Stone covers, the Sheepdogs have built a career the old-fashioned way. Kick-ass songs, tight musicianship, and a whole shit pile of touring, and then touring some more. And right in the middle of that is Ryan holding it all down on the bass. We're going to find out if he is indeed the most responsible person in the band or not. He'll have to tell us that himself. Ryan Gullen, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Jann Arden podcast.
Thanks for having me. That's great. Good to be here. Hello.
Yeah. Listen, I know the girls have questions, but I'm going to ask a couple of myself before we get going.
Sure.
Not a lot of bands have come out of Saskatoon. So what was, like, I'm just thinking of what sort of inspired me in the Calgary scene. I'm going to say early 80s, and I'm older than all you guys. But I mean, they had open mic nights in Calgary. They didn't have a lot of stuff going on. But what was going on that sort of said to you guys, let's put a band together? I know you've answered this question before, but I'm just wondering, like, did you see something somewhere on television? Was there bands that you aspired to be like that were playing in bars around Saskatoon? Like, what the hell? What was that? I mean that earnestly. Like,
no, I totally know what you mean. Yeah, and I think that there's like no shortage of bands that also break up because they suddenly realize how far away everything is geographically. We know once you start touring and how hard it is to come from Western Canada. Initially it was really just like sort of a little bit of almost like escapism. We were like 19 and we weren't really sure what to do. I mean, it almost sounds like a country song or something like that, but like Ewan broke up with his long-term girlfriend. I got fired from my job at Blockbuster Video. That'll tell you how old I am too. That'll date me as well for some people. And we just decided to do something different. We'd never really played in bands before. We kind of knew, like, I never played the bass before. I played guitar and piano and stuff. And so we just got together and started jamming as something to do. And it sort of eventually became like a way to do something different.
Where did you jam? Was it somebody's basement?
Our drummer, Sam's parents' basement. So Sam's dad was a musician, and they encouraged us to do it down there. And, we took it pretty seriously. We were terrible, but we took it seriously. We'd like get together every single day for like, I don't know, almost a year probably before someone had to like go away or be at work or something. So we always made time for it, and we went from being like trying to figure out how to play our instruments to, writing songs to playing at open mics. Like you mentioned, open stage was a big thing, and then playing shows and recording music and going on tour, and it sort of just snowballed from there. But it really did come from a place of like, when you're like kind of like 18, 19 and you're like, stop kind of wanting to just hang out with your high school friends and you're trying to figure out life and figure out where you want to go. And it, for us, was sort of that escape. And we've kind of continued to escape with that rock and roll music ever since.
Tell me about the aesthetic. I mean, all you guys are looking really cool. Like really like a
that's a goal, right?
No, it's come on YouTube.
But it's a 70s vibe, it's an 80s vibe. And it's kind of uniform with all you guys. Like where did that happen? Once again, Saskatoon, I don't think they were a fashion forward kind of a cool place. Maybe they're cooler now. I mean, if Chapel Rowan can write about Saskatchewan, I guess there's got to be something going on, but there's a real aesthetic to you guys. I mean, ask Rolling Stone magazine, but there really is.
Yeah, well, I think that like it's just we sort of were all of us when we started playing together, whether it was like playing covers or the music we all listened to, it really gravitated towards that sort of vintage 70s rock and roll. It's just kind of like what, we make the music we like. We're talking about sort of 2004, 2005. There was a lot of bands like, Black Keys, White Stripes, Jet, all these bands that were kind of doing rock and roll, at the time. And I think that was also inspiration. We like dug that, but I don't know. Weirdly, I often think that a big part of this was I contribute to like Napster. Like when we were in high school, but no, like, okay, hear me out on this, okay? Like, I'm not going to promote pirating music, but it was like, you know, it used to be you had to have like someone's like cool older brother to turn you on to music. Like, if you didn't have that, you were just listening to like Chumbawamba or whatever, and so like we didn't have necessarily, none of us had cool older brothers. We were all the older brothers, so we thankfully in high school had access to like Napster and the later versions of that, where we could kind of do what people do now, like go down a rabbit hole, find like I would about an artist and then like find another artist and use the internet to do that. So we were able to consume so much music, and it really did influence us. We were able to find that thing. It was less about finding that thing that people were telling you should like, whether it was like what was on Much Music or on the radio at the time, and more so what we could find online. So both you and I got really into like sharing, like, oh, here's this song. Oh, check it out. I found this song
I love
when we were in high
that.
school. Yeah.
So
I mean, I think it's what people do now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you can send messages to people literally through music. Like if you have a mood going on, I often will get tracks from all kinds of friends from all over the place on my WhatsApp. They'll send me a track either on Apple or Spotify, and I know exactly. They're like, this is what I'm fucking feeling like today. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's low. That's really deep. I really love it. I love it so much. Caitlin, I'm going to throw it over to you because I always hog the questions, Ryan. I'm very known for that on this podcast.
She also always says this on her own podcast. Every time we record,
I do.
She's like, how dare I? I'm just wondering how you feel. Like, I grew up listening to a lot of rock, and I think the bands that you just cited, they had their, you know, it was like there's a big rock push, and then it feels like it kind of went to sleep in terms of like mainstream dominance for a minute there, whether it was like pop or hip hop or just production changed. But I feel like, and I could be wrong, and I'm wondering if you get the same sense, that it's coming back a little bit right now. Because I was at a show. I went to go see Mac DeMarco, and I kind of thought that I was going to be like, my husband and I were like, we're going to be kind of the median age or maybe a little on the older end. We were the oldest people there by so much. I couldn't believe it. It was crazy. Like, there were kids crowd surfing. It was like a cultural resurgence at that show that I wasn't familiar with. And we like held hands and we were like, there's hope for the youth. They had digital cameras. None of them were on their phones. It was really different. And then I read an interview with him and he said, I don't know what's happened, but like my songs keep getting introduced to kids on TikTok, and I expect to see people my age at my shows, and they just keep getting younger and younger. And then there are bands like Geese, and there's just this cool moment happening right now. And I'm wondering if you guys in the band feel that too.
I think so. I mean, I think to like the modern version of what I'm talking about, like it's really interesting to see younger people now because they can get into things and they can consume it. They don't need to rely on what's around them in order to consume it. So, you know, I think there's way more niche listening, watching, you know, all the different things. And I think what's actually cool about that is I think also like as we become a more digital world, younger people are more drawn to analog, whether it's experience or even just music. I was staying with a friend of mine a couple of months ago in Spain, and his son is 18, and he really wanted to hang out and talk about music to me because he's a bass player, and I heard him like playing bass and stuff at the house. And it was really interesting. He was obsessed with the idea of analog. He was like, tell me about what it's like to go on tour before Google Maps existed and stuff. Like, he just wanted to hear about this world, which I'm like sort of straddle the line of because I'm, you know, old enough to have gone on tour a little bit without like, you know, with like a book of maps, but like also, you know, live in the modern age. And I just have discovered like so many young people are just so interested in that. And I think at the same time you have, people don't have to rely on like what's trendy around them necessarily. They can discover things on their own, which is, you know, you see that even in just like younger people's interest in, you know, environmentalism or something like that. Like, people can learn so much about whether it's the environment or you know, any of that kind of stuff, and they can get super deep on their information. Whereas, you know, when I was a kid, you had to still had to go to a little drawer at the library and pull the cards out and take books out of the library and all that crazy stuff that people used to do. So
have you guys
I think
had
there's a part of that.
Have you had any sort of like success on TikTok? Have any of your songs taken off there? Or is that a conversation that ever happens?
No. I mean, it is not really, but not to the extent of some people. Like, there was one recently, Julie Doran, you know, the artist, like she had a song like blow up on TikTok, and all these young people were covering her song, and she was just like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, there's stuff like that happens. We've never had that, but we've sort of, we've had moments at times, but not to that like big extent. But I'm okay with that too. I'm not gonna. I think it's a bit of a fool's errand to chase some of that stuff sometimes, especially when you're 40 years old too.
Yeah.
Just wait till you're 63. It
Yeah.
really gets. It really,
I'm
really,
waiting for
really
Jann
gets.
to go viral. Let's do it.
She did last
really-
year.
Yeah, you had a
What is she
little
on?
one.
Well, just a little bit. It was something to
A
do with
little
getting rid of Diet Coke when we went Buy Canadian.
Yes.
They
Elbows
used a
up.
line in Good Mother, worn out goddamn miseries or something, thrown out with all the worn out goddamn miseries. And I'm like, what is happening? Why are they using one fucking line of this song that's about my parents? It's suddenly about Diet Coke, but I was all in for it. And I think I made over $4. So
That's great.
it was really great. I would be remiss not to flip a question over to Sarah, because I know you guys are friends and that you have hung out together. So, Sarah, do you have any questions for Ryan that you haven't been able to ask him over the years? This is your chance.
And is it related to the Christmas bar?
Oh yeah, Ryan took me to a great Christmas bar that got like all tinseled up last year. Was that last year or 2 years ago? I don't remember.
And
But-
maybe possibly the most intoxicated I've ever been in my entire life.
I'm
after that.
honored.
Yeah, it was
I'm
unbelievable.
Oh my God.
I've been off the sauce like for the most part these days. Like
Good.
and I think back to that, I'm like, oh my God, that was a wild night we had at the Christmas bar. So I wondered if it would come out.
Yeah, the Jew at the
Yeah.
Christmas bar was out of control. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So I know that, like, you know, you're kind of like the dad in the band. You take care of a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and you have your own management company. And it's been really cool. Like, you know, I was sort of telling Jan that we grew up on the radio at the same time. Like, you know, me getting my radio gig and being able to interview you guys. And then, like, every time we would see each other, we'd be better pals, you know, than the last time.
Mhm.
And is there anything now on the management side of things and working with other artists that you wish you told like younger you or your younger version of the Sheepdogs?
Well, I try not to like get all like hung up on what I should have done or anything like that. But I think the advice that I do always give to young people or other artists is like learn as much as you can and like understand that no matter like how much money you make, nobody's going to care as much about what you do than you are. And so try to learn as much as you can, because even when other people are working for you, you want to be able to like make sure that they're doing so in your best interest and make sure that you're making decisions that are in best interest. And that was something that I learned the hard way at times, and also have learned, you know, been proud of what we've done because we've always sort of maintained a hand in what we've done. I mean, at this point now, like I also we run our own label. We bought our catalog back from Warner. And
Good for you.
we started our own label. We're investing money back into making music rather than buying someone a car or something like that. I don't know, whatever label people buy these days.
Yeah.
No, so that's always the big thing. It's just like, I feel like I had to learn sometimes that even though like there's these fancy people that'll tell you all these things that they're going to do for you, it's always eventually going to come back to you to be responsible of either holding them accountable or also just doing it yourself too. So
The more you can control, the better off that you are. I mean, that just makes sense in any endeavor that you undertake. You've got to have a hand in pretty much every aspect of what you're doing. It's not like the old days where you didn't know what was happening. You didn't know what your income stream was. You didn't know they were selling songs, you know, in the 50s for $100 that made them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And the artist would have like $400. Like these stories still happen when people are naive. I mean, Ryan would know this. There's, these 360 deals that labels kind of concoct now, which includes taking like half of your touring and your merchandise sales and your publishing. And I always caution young people. I'm like, listen, you need to really have someone look at what you're being handed. And most of these TV shows like The Voice and American Idol and every different franchise of those variations all over the globe, when those young people won, they had no fucking idea of how they were going to be pillaged of their art, any opportunity to make money or to continue their careers, which is why you see, you know, let's say there's been 100 grand prize winners of all these shows over the last 5 or 6 years. You can't name 10 of them because they just they get absorbed into the ether, and those kinds of careers are not sustainable. Anyway, I could go on about this stuff. It is frustrating as far as the industry goes, because unlike you, Ryan, I was in an analog decade. That's all I lived with was the analog aspect of it. Digital recording hadn't really taken a hold at all. When I first started making records.
When was the first time you were in a studio where you first saw a digital recording? Because I mean, there's obviously it's been around forever, but it
would have been the mid '90s.
Yeah.
It would have been the mid '90s, because we did most of my recording. That first 10 years of my career was all in Los Angeles. I was at Groove Masters. I was at Jackson Brown's studio in Santa Monica, and it was live off the floor. It was Jim Keltner and all these fucking crazy, amazing musicians playing with, just Ed Cherney was producing some of my early stuff. It was just crazy days where I just would sing these songs 5 or 6 or 7 times, and then we'd have a record, and I could see them cutting tape in half to put 2 passes together. Like, it was like, what is happening? So digital seems, you could record a record in your bathroom now.
Oh my God, trying to edit this podcast from tape would be so hard.
Could you imagine?
Yeah. If you were cutting
I guess
tape,
there would just be more happy accidents. I think that's what always. I mean, there's so many records you listen to where they just left mistakes on because they had no choice, and because the band was all hammered and they had no more takes left in them or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
I have a lot of my records have lots of little mistakes on. There's a song called "Will You Remember Me" off my very first record, and there's a fucking whistle in there. Jim Keltner was so high, he had smoked so much weed, and he just kept blowing a whistle. Like, he'd be playing this great groove. I mean, this is a man that was with the Traveling Wilburys. Like, say no more. The legendary man. Oh my God.
I want to know how he smelled.
Wonderful. He's wonderful, but he just was one of those guys. And he wore John Lennon's jeans. Like, his jeans. He goes, yeah, John Lennon gave me these jeans. And he wasn't kidding. He was fucking not kidding. But anyway, he kept blowing a whistle. I felt like it was a Donna Summer. Beep, 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 beep. One of those things. And we just left it in there. And we just tried to dip it down, but it was on the overheads of the drum kit. So there's this whistle all the way through, and every time I hear that song. Anyway, back to you, Ryan.
We should say, just because he's a pal, that's not how this podcast, episode happened.
Yes, Sarah, you go, please.
The publicist wrote us a note being like, Ryan has a great story to tell Jann.
I have a Jann Arden story. Well, I have my. And if I ever meet Jann Arden, this is going to be my story I'm going to tell.
I love it.
And I feel like we met maybe one time at a thing, but it was like very quickly, and I was like, I still got to tell her this story.
No, I did meet you guys.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember where that was.
I feel like it was in Hamilton. JUNO's thing. I do. I really do. I can't remember the city's wrong. I've been sober for 10 years, so if it was before.
Yeah.
If it was in the last 10 years, I would have a much better memory of it, but it probably was when I was drinking.
Yeah, okay.
And we might have slept together. I don't know.
What a wild night.
That's his Jann Arden story.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to a Christmas bar? Yeah.
Oh God, that Christmas bar makes me feel
so. What
sick
is your story? Ryan, go. Okay, what is your story? Because now, do I need to be afraid?
Oh. No, not at all. Honestly, it's one of these things that it's kind of something I clocked when I was younger, and it like kind of stuck with me and like influenced me. I'm not going to sell it too hard here, but influenced me as a person when I became an artist myself. So I'll take you back to 1997. This is like peak Jann right here.
Oh, yeah, it's insensitive era Jann.
And I looked it up, It was November 1997. You played Saskatoon at what's now called Centennial Auditorium. We'll call it what it was called. And
been there many
times.
So
there was 1997. I would have been in grade 6, I guess, grade 6, grade 7, something like that. And there was a girl in my class named Lindsay, and Lindsay was a huge Jann Arden fan. So she was whatever age you are in grade 6 or grade 7, and I'm not going to throw shade here, but I wouldn't say there was a lot of grade 6s in your audience at that time. This is an anomaly, and I think if you think about what like was going on then, it'd be like the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack or something like that would be what was hot for people in grade 6.
Extreme Boys, don't forget about that.
Well, yeah, that would have anyways. But so she kind of maybe got made fun of a little bit for maybe being a Jann Arden fan. And again, this is me
I
and the
understand.
children.
I understand.
Yeah. But she wrote you a letter, and you wrote her back. And so she came to school one day and was like, Jann Arden wrote me back, and she's telling everyone about this, and that was kind of cool for her. And then you came through Saskatoon, and you reached, and this is like, this is not the days of email. You wrote her a letter. You tracked her down, and you reached out to her, and you invited her to the show. And I don't know if you remember this at all, but like she came to the show, and you gave her like the backstage pass, the whole treatment, took a non-digital photo with her, all that stuff. And the next day she came back to school, and she had all the swag from the show. She had all this stuff. And like, everyone was just like not making fun of her. They're just like, oh my God, you got to meet Jann Arden. That's so cool. Like, and so you can imagine being like a tween girl, whatever age, and having this moment where, it just like blew her mind. I mean, I don't know if I've seen Lindsay since maybe some point.
We have to have her on the show.
No,
well, I sort of joked that we should have brought her in, but it's always stuck with me. And I clocked this when I was however old, but it struck me as like a wild thing, that something that was probably relatively insignificant to you, but just that you took that little bit of time to like make this person feel seen and make them feel important. Like, I don't know, I'd be curious to get her take on this, because like literally she got to come to school and be super cool and show off all this stuff for this, because she's a Jann Arden fan. And I always thought it was like wild, that you replied, but also that you like sought her out and all that stuff. And so I kept this with me, and I honestly, it stuck with me. And as I became like a popular musician, I always remember this, that it's like, sometimes what might be insignificant amount of small time that you can do to pay attention to someone, give somebody time, can go so long, and you never know like what that impact could have on that person, especially like in that situation. Like, you could imagine that someone at that age probably doesn't have the most like best self-esteem or whatever. And so those moments. No. And so, like, honestly, I wanted to thank you for kind of instilling that in me indirectly, not knowing that you were having impact on me. But I've always made a point to give people the time of day, to stop and talk to people, give people whatever, give somebody a backstage tour, or give them a lanyard, or give them, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Because you never know like what impact that could have on somebody.
Oh God,
and it's just a story that I've been dying to tell you for all these years.
No, and I've never forgotten so much.
That. Yeah.
I appreciate it so much. No, I remember that. And I've done it a few times in my life. And I wish I could do it for everyone. But what it does for me, it's probably super selfish. It just makes me feel like I have a hot liquid inside of my chest. And it just moves around like just a heating pad. It feels otherworldly. And I think I've always sort of lived in a place of gratitude, because I am that kid. I am Lindsay from Springbank, Alberta, who could never have fathomed that someone who looked like me and where I was from, such a small community, could have, gotten into the music business. It seemed so far away. But I think she probably did more for me than I ever did for her. And
no, I mean, it'd be interesting. I mean, you never know. That's what I'm saying, is you never know how much of an impact that could have on somebody.
Just a moment.
It's wild. Yeah.
We all benefit. It's so, it's just one of those really serendipitous things. And sometimes it just works out that you can do it. Mm-hmm. I remember Corey Hoban. Hi, Corey Hoban, if you're listening. She was 15 years old, and she was in Ottawa. It was a similar situation, and I received a letter. And I tracked her down in Ottawa and brought her to the show. But she was in a really tough time in her life. But I remember ringing the doorbell at her house. I think I took a taxi, or maybe one of the showrunners took me to her house. And I was by myself, and her mom answered the door, and they had ordered Chinese food that night. And they were having like the family together for Chinese food. And I said, "Hi, is Corey home?" And her mom just looked at me like, what the hell? And I sat and I had Chinese food with this family, the Hobans in Ottawa. Corey's married now, and they have a beautiful daughter, and we've kept in touch. She's in her 40s now. And it's done so much for me over the years, just to, like, I appreciate you telling me because you don't know what they're going to think, but it takes so much energy to be an asshole. I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
It is a premeditative, purposeful thing to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Meanness or cruelty, you have to choose it. And kindness, you don't. You just have to let yourself go into it. You just have to lean forward, and you're already there. So when you run into people that are idiots in the industry, in the music business, that are mean-spirited, treat other people like shit. I've seen it time and time and time again. And I just roll my eyeballs and I'm like, wow, fame is fleeting. I really can't wait to see what happens to you just in your own personal life. Never mind the career that you've chosen for yourself, but in the spirit of what music is, it's about kindness, connection, thoughtfulness, heartbreak, overcoming grief. And I've said to these guys so many times, you're not going to hear me at a rave but you'll hear me in a minivan. You'll hear me in somebody's fucking minivan. I don't even think you'd hear me at a dinner party. I don't think I should be consumed by more than 2 people at a time. And that's okay. But thank you for telling me that, Ryan. It means a lot. And I'm glad that there's a little spark of that rubbed off on you, because I had people where it rubbed off on me too.
Mm-hmm.
I'd hear stories about, back in the day, things that Anne Murray did, or, Bette Midler, or that they'd show up or sign something or wait. And I just thought, that's what I want to be like if I ever get anywhere. I want to be, I dropped my partner off at the airport today and someone was calling my name. I was at the WestJet counter. And I thought, do I turn around? And I turned around and there was a lineup, people trying to check in. And it was this woman and she was waving. And I said to Thordis, I'm just going to go to this woman because she's just making a little bit of a scene. So I walked 15 feet over and I said, hey, I said, do you need a picture? She goes, no, I'm going to see Brandi Carlile and I love you so much. Oh. And I'm so happy and I can't believe I'm seeing you with Thordis. And we just hugged. We just hugged in the WestJet line and she hugged me so hard. And everyone was looking and I just thought, what a gift that I just got. And she was so excited to go see Brandi Carlile. And it makes me emotional because people just want to do good. They just want to feel good. They just
I think now more than ever, I feel like people are like searching for that.
Now more than ever. And I thought, and I could hear my mother's voice, would it kill you to walk over there and say hello? And Thordis said, go see what she wants. And I walked over. A lot of people wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it sounds like you had that split second where you were like,
because
anticipating.
I was just trying, I was trying to get her in, but I swear to God, my mom comes into my body. Would it kill you to sign that little piece of paper? And she's right. It wouldn't. And so I appreciate it. And I don't always get it right. Well, I don't always get it right. But I do try, and I fumble. But if you take responsibility for your fumbles, you're halfway there. It's when you just throw your head back and think that you are entitled, that you deserve to walk above everybody else. Apathy, it just fucks us over. And in music, of all things, my God, you're doing the work of angels, for God's sakes. Like, just appreciate what people are handing you.
Lindsay, if you hear this, you got to get in touch.
Yeah,
I mean, I was gonna say I probably am friends with her on Facebook. I should look that up. Yeah, but it's always that thing, you got to figure out what people's like
new names are.
New names are. But I was gonna say, to your point, I think something I've always thought about is like there has to be a certain level of narcissism for musicians to be like, I have something special and I'm going to go stand in front of like a room full of strangers and perform it. But the key to like success and longevity is to be able to dial that back and have gratitude and have understanding that it's like, it's not all a given. You're going to have to work hard. There's going to be ups and downs. And I think the people that I know that, there's a strong correlation between people who have long careers in music and people who are, kind and, good to the people around them and not, assholes, not just like being, that narcissistic thing. Because there is the tendency, and we've all seen it, like the people that go way the other way and just get so full of themselves. And most of the time, those people kind of just slowly disappear and you stop hearing about them. There's definitely a correlation between like longevity in music and being
Kindness.
kind and kindness and
I
gratitude.
can assure
and that
you,
stuff.
I have a lack of narcissism. I do not have it. If anything, it's the antithesis. And I have confidence, but I have no self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a weird thing, but it's been a nice balance for me in what I do, because I don't know what I'm doing in anything that I do. I'm not great at anything.
Hence hogging the podcast questions and that whole thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And that's why I need you guys to, to make me fly right. But I have the absence of narcissism. I don't have it. And it could be a contributing factor to how far, like, I didn't get in the United States, or how far I didn't get because I didn't have that. I didn't have that. I didn't have that drive to, do things at any cost to get there. I just didn't. I just wanted to do music.
Narcissism
I
is
just
the wrong
wanted to
thing.
play
Maybe
music.
I was thinking, yeah. Maybe I was thinking
but
more
you're
just the
right.
confidence,
There's a lot of narcissism.
Like just like you have to be kind of a little bit nuts to be like, what I'm doing is important. I'm going to go stand in front of, like, go on tour and hope that people will show up. And I think it's like crazy now because you think about kids, like they have to like curate their whole online persona. They have to like create who they are on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. And it's like you have to be even more so into yourself, I think, in order to do that. So
yeah, I think it'll swing back around. I really do. I think this is kind of like a piece of history. It's very interesting, social media, but like you said, the 18-year-old in Spain wanting to know about the analog world. I think everything swings around back to this real human analog nature to what humanity is something very tactile. For a while, like Audible books or books that you could just download were super popular, and the publishing industry was really concerned what was going to happen to them. And there was like a decade where it was touch and go. And books have never been bigger than they are now. They're back. People wanted a tactile. Everyone bought a Kobo. Everybody had Kindle. And they read it that way. And they realized there was a disconnect between feeling the pages of a book and realizing I've got 80 pages left. I've got 60 pages left. I've got 30 pages left. The anticipation of, oh my fucking God, what's going to fucking happen? There's 4 pages left. And I think we need that in storytelling. And I felt that way about vinyl. I could look at my records going around and going, oh shit, there's only one song left on this side. God damn it. I want to get, there's just something
or just
about
listening to a side of music in itself.
Oh my God. Yeah. I love my records. I noticed that you've got just a ton of vinyl in behind you.
Don't get them started. We'll be here a half hour.
No.
Well, and I was going to say, to add to that point, is I think that like what's really interesting in like the world of people are talking about like AI music and what's that going to mean for musicians in the future. And I think it's like what's really interesting, to your point, is doing shows like post-COVID, when everyone like finally got to be back in a room, like sharing a moment together, like there's something that's so like magical, and like the feeling of that when people were just so excited to be back, having like shared experience, being in public, experiencing something. I mean, people just went crazy on spending money on that when they didn't have it. And I think that that's going to be the part that's going to prevail over all this like digital, stuff, is that people want experience. The tactile, they want to be in a room with 1,000 other people.
Hey, speaking of which, what's your band doing?
Well, funny you'd ask. We have a new album coming out on February 27th, and we're going.
Congratulations, Ryan! That's exciting.
Oh yeah, always.
What's
new.
it called?
And the label owners. You're the label owners.
We've been just like trying to put out as much music as possible because we can now.
Yes.
The album's called Keep Out of the Storm, and it's out, I said February 27th. And then March 13th until the end of April, we're going all across, as well to Calgary. We're going all across, and there's more dates to be announced. There's some missing cities on there, but there are plans to go to other places. So we've been touring a lot in the US and Europe the last little while. So we're back across the country and coming and going.
And always a good time. So don't miss a show if they've got one in your area.
If I can come and see you, I fully expect comp tickets, Ryan.
Okay, well, Maybe if you
With
write me a
Rosie.
letter. If you write me a letter, maybe I'll show you backstage.
I will write you a letter. And I'll bring my Polaroid camera.
Yeah, actually, we're doing like a VIP thing, and we're doing Polaroids as like the band. You like get a Polaroid with the band thing, which is
I
fun.
love that.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, kicking it old school. There's nothing like standing around a piece of film and just watching it develop right before your very eyes. One of the greatest inventions of the last 100 years is a
the original
Polaroid
digital
camera.
photo. Yeah,
And they're all coming back. Ryan, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, sharing a great story.
thanks for having me.
Congratulations with all your amazing success. You make Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and all of Canada proud. I have seen you guys play before, and I thought you were fucking kick-ass. And just as a sidebar, bass is my favorite instrument. You can ask my band. My guy, Norm Fisher, who's played with me for years, is a fantastic player. And he's the only guy that I really have cranked up in my in-ears because he's the only guy in tune. So I just make sure that I always listen to Norm. But congratulations on everything. You're a great guy, and I wish you guys nothing but success. You deserve it. And just keep kicking ass. And keep being entrepreneurial. It's great for young people to hear about you guys taking that financial risk and investing in yourselves and re-looking at an industry that, for decades and decades kind of sold one way of doing things, the big label system and all of that. And digital stuff has changed the game. Obviously, the internet, streaming has changed how we release music. So it's great that people have someone to look up to, a really cool band, and go, well, fuck, if they can do it, we can do it too. And that's awesome. I hope you'll come back and tell us about your tour and, say hi to Lindsay for us. And between... but I appreciate your story so much and appreciate you guys. And we'll hope you're welcome anytime back on the show. So
hopefully I'll see you in Calgary. Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's it's fun to do these things. So it's nice. Nice to meet you. And again, thank you.
Yes.
Again, like I said, a very small thing you did in 1997 had a big impact on me, and I wanted to share that with you. So, because sometimes people also don't tell you those things, so I think it's important to share those things.
No, like you don't know. I still think about the guy that I kissed that had one leg that was hopping beside the car when I went to Montana. I kissed him and told my friend.
How does he come up so often?
I don't know. But
Have
I
you
think
tracked
about
this
what
person
happened to him. He was hopping beside the car. We were kissing. It was one of the most, it was a moment in my teenage life. And I often wonder if the one-legged man is out there, please call into the show. But he's probably...
Leave a voice note. The
misconnection of one-legged man in Montana.
Brian Gullen has been our guest. We'll talk to you next time on the Jann Arden podcast. Toodly-doo.